I want to share an amazing video with you that each time I watch it, I'm deeply moved by. But before I do that, let me tell you about a movie from a few years ago that probably some of you have seen. It's a story about a man, played by Tom Hanks, who is traveling through the United States in a stopover on a flight back to his home somewhere in Eastern Europe. He doesn't speak a word of English, but the customs officials are trying somehow to convey to him that unfortunately he can't continue his trip because there's been a military coup in his country. However, they cannot admit him into the United States, and therefore they confiscate his passport and tell him that he must stay in the airport. And the entire movie is in the airport. This man trying to learn the language and to get himself a job in order to get food. He's trying to help people and navigate a very unfamiliar surroundings, and he's just waiting. And the movie is aptly named The Terminal. Parshat Shelach is like that movie, only it doesn't have any comedic elements to it. The Jewish people were told, you're a few days walk from Eretz Canaan, but you're going to wait here in this waiting area for 40 years. For so many, the vast majority of the nation, those who were over the age of 20, it would not just be a long wait, but it would be terminal. And that had to be a crushing blow for Klal Yisrael, for us. In fact, as the Mishnah Masechet Tanit reminds us, that first night of crying when the spies came back was the night of Tisha B'Av. And that set in motion a cascading series of events throughout history that would always find their way back to that lowest point on the Jewish calendar, the nadir of Jewish history, where for one moment, the Jewish people short-circuited on our very vision that was presented to us by our Babis and our Zaydis, by our Avraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel, Leah, through all the generations that had led to this moment. For some reason, inexplicably almost, the Jewish people decide we're not ready to go. The power of fear when facing uncertainty is very great. That power threatens to overwhelm. And in fact, in the case of the Jewish people, during the story of Parshat Shelach, that's exactly what happened. This is a simple point, but so often gets lost in the fray when we are dealing with our own issues, where we feel that we have to wait. Some of us were zocher to go back to shul this week. So many of us are still waiting for that opportunity. And it's hard to have patience and to wait. Many of us are already getting tired of waiting, of keeping up various restrictions for safety as regards the virus. And yet, our medical professionals are reminding us that we need to stay strong, that we will get there, we'll be delivered, we'll come back home, Chadesh Yameinu Kikedem, back to our Beit Knesset, back to our comfortable surroundings, back to our opportunities to interact with friends and family. And it's hard to wait all that time. There comes a moment in Parshat Shelach where everything seems upended. It's where the Jewish people are actually in such a state of confusion owing to their anxiety, such a panic and a hysteria that's taken root because of the negative report, not of the beauty of the land, but of the challenge of conquering the land, that one turns to their fellow and says, let's just hit rewind on the whole thing. Vayomer ish el achiv nitna rosh v'nashuva mitzrayma. The common person said to their fellow, let's just put up someone to be in charge and let's go back to Egypt. Just consider what this means. They want to replace Moshe and Aaron with a rosh, with someone else. Rashi says perhaps it was some kind of a desire to have idolatrous leadership beyond just human leadership. They want to go back to Mitzrayim. How's that going to look? They go back to Mitzrayim, they return, and as Rav Yaakov Meidan, Rosh Yeshivat Har Etzion put it, they'll apologize to the Egyptians. We're sorry that your whole army was drowned in the Reed Sea while they were chasing us to try to destroy us. We're sorry about the 10 plagues. Blame Moshe, it's his fault. Blame God, it's his fault. We don't hold it against you that you drowned our children in the Nile or cast them into the troughs where the bricks were needed, how we starved, how we were slaved, the fact that we took reparations from the Egyptians as we left for 210 years of slavery. We'll give it all back. And then what? The Jews will live as fine citizens of Eretz Mitzrayim? But that tells you how deep and how low the abyss that the Jewish people have fallen into. We need to resist this abyss where fear will overtake hope, where confidence is undermined by anxiety, and where uncertainty leads to precipitous actions that, God forbid, could have life-threatening consequences. You know, our Beit Knesset and all Bati Knesiot like it, according to Rav Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin and the Tzidkat Tzadik and Kuf Ayin Vav, he writes that the Kedusha of the Bati Knesset and Bati Midrashot, Heim Kedushat Eretz Yisrael. These institutions have the sanctity of the land of Israel, as the Gemara Masachet Megillah and Chaf Tet teaches, Da'atidin sheyikbeu be'eretz Yisrael. The shuls will someday be reestablished in Eretz Yisrael. All of them, all the congregations will move, will make aliyah. Our time has not come yet, perhaps, and yet we're waiting to be able, so many of us, to go back to our little piece, symbolically, of Eretz Yisrael in our own community, our Beit Knesset. Which brings me now to that beautiful video. What I'm going to show you now is a video of a flight that was a flight from Bolivia. It was part of a 43-hour shuttling back and forth, taking people out of various places of the world. Where the pilot gets on, you can hear him say, we will be able to overcome Corona. We will deal with any challenge that comes our way. And of course, he uses the word habaita. We're going home. So here's that video for your consideration on this Erev Shabbat, Parshat Shelach.
למרות שזו הייתה הטיסה הכי ארוכה שעשינו אי פעם, 43 שעות רצוף במטוס, היה לנו לעונג להשיב אתכם הביתה. שאתם תשבו בבית בבידוד, תזכרו את חשיבותו של הביחד. ביחד ננצח את הקורונה ונעמוד בכל אתגר בעתיד. שבת שלום, בריאות שלמה לכולנו, לסיום יש לי בקשה. אני מבקש שתשירו יחד עם הצוות הנפלא והמדהים שלנו את השיר כל העולם כולו גשם צר מאוד. אני אתחיל ואתם תמשיכו. כל העולם כולו גשם צר מאוד, גשם צר מאוד, גשם צר מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשם צר מאוד, גשם צר מאוד. קחו את זה מפה. העיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד, לא לפחד, איפה מקום? סודו של רב,
That's Klal Yisrael. We're living at a time now where all that has to happen is for the pilot to say, habaita, and we can go there. For those of us who are not yet ready to make that journey, we're still saying habaita to our Beit Knesset. And until that time, that we will hear from the pilot, in this case from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it's safe for all of us to go back to that place. We have to keep singing those songs of Rabbi Nachman Breslover to remind ourselves about how fragile our world is. It's just a very narrow bridge. But the main thing to recall, as Rabbi Nachman teaches, is not to make oneself afraid, not to give in to anxiety and fear and despair, but instead, as the pilot on that flight told the people who were flying habaita, we together will deal with any future challenge that comes our way. Wishing each and every one of you a Shabbat Shalom.